Hi, my name's Eileen. My mom told me my presence was toxic for my sister's unborn baby. So she asked me to leave the house I paid for. Not yelled, not argued, just asked. With that sweet, cold voice only mothers perfect. And the worst part? My sister nodded. Nobody said goodbye. They just let me disappear. But I didn't leave empty-handed. They kept the story. I kept the deed. So ask yourself, what happens when the quiet one finally fights back? The morning was still, that kind of winter stillness where the air doesn't move unless something makes it. I was pruning the pothos on the kitchen windowsill, snipping dead leaves like I'd done a dozen times before. The kettle clicked off behind me, and the scent of black tea drifted through the air. My father's old mug waited by the stove, the one he used every morning before his heart gave out in that very room. Outside, a cardinal sang from the dogwood tree, and I let myself believe for a second that this day would stay soft. It didn't. She was already watching me when I turned. My mother, seated at the dining table, her fingers lightly tapping the wood like she was keeping time to some rhythm only she could hear. She smiled when our eyes met. Too sweet. Too careful. "After breakfast," she said, "let's have a little family moment." I should have known right then. We sat down, me, her, and Delora. My sister was glued to her phone, one hand absently resting on the swell of her belly. She didn't look at me when Mom began to speak. "I've been reading," my mother said, like she was discussing a weather report. "When a woman's carrying life, she shouldn't be surrounded by stagnant spirits." I blinked. "What?" She folded her hands. "The baby. This house. We need a fresh energy. You understand, right?" Delora still hadn't looked up. "Are you saying I should leave?" "It's what's best. For everyone." I waited for Delora to say something. Anything. But silence doesn't lie. They'd already decided. I wasn't being asked to leave. I was being erased. I stared down at my tea, now cold. The cup read, "Best Mom Ever." A Mother's Day gift I'd bought 5 years ago. Funny how things shift when they stop needing you. After Dad passed, I was the one who refinanced the house to keep us from losing it. I paid off Delora's old medical bills. I fixed the broken fence, cooked the meals, ran every errand. No one noticed. No one ever does. It's funny how the people you sacrifice for become the first to step over your absence like it was always part of the plan. Family isn't always who hurts you, I once told myself, but it's always who knows exactly where to. I packed in silence. 2 boxes. 1 suitcase. Nobody asked where I'd go. I found the pothos plant as I folded my last sweater. It sat by the window like it didn't know anything had changed. I touched the edge of a leaf. It curled slightly but stayed green. When I walked past the kitchen, Mom closed the door slowly, deliberately. That hit harder than anything she could have said. Leaving wasn't hard. Realizing no one wanted me to stay, now that carved something deep. Snow had started to fall by the time I reached the porch. No one followed. No one opened a window. Not a single goodbye. I stepped onto the path I'd cleared after last week's storm. Looked back once, not at the windows, not at the house, but at the plant I left by the steps. It was still my house, just not my home anymore. The wheels hummed against the asphalt as I drove away, slow and steady, like the road knew not to rush me. My hands gripped the wheel tighter than they needed to. I didn't cry. I didn't talk to myself. I just remembered. That house, our house, back when it meant something, was where I learned to ride a bike, where Dad burned pancakes on Saturdays, where I stood on a chair, flour on my nose, helping him stir batter in a dented bowl we refused to replace. Now. No one came to the window when I left. No one asked if I was okay. Not even a glance. I'd poured my retirement into that place to keep Mom and Delora from drowning after Dad passed. Paperwork, checks, co-signing loans no one else could get approved for. Not a thank you. Not even a nod. I used to think maybe they'd remember one day, but forgetting can start long before someone's gone. There's no worse kind of forgetting than the kind that happens while you're still in the room. 3 days later, I sat at the small table in my new apartment, scrolling, just passing time until the photos appeared. A baby shower, balloons, finger foods on platters I recognized. The living room wall, one I painted myself, decorated with streamers. The caption read, "Celebrating in the home built by strong women like Mom and Delora." My name wasn't mentioned. I wasn't tagged. I wasn't even a blur in the background. I stared at the photos. My hands went still on the screen. The old piano I had restored was now just a backdrop for cupcakes and smiles. The hurricane-damaged roof I'd paid to fix last year, standing tall behind a welcome baby banner. The basement I spent 2 weekends organizing, probably holding gift bags now. They'd thrown a party in my house, not just without me, like I'd never existed at all. I didn't comment, didn't like or share, just scrolled. It wasn't hurt. It was emptiness. Later that night, I saw a comment under one of the pictures. "Such a beautiful home. Did you two build it from scratch?" Delora replied, "It's our family legacy. We made it a home." I felt it land like a blow I didn't see coming. I never asked for credit, never once brought up the loan documents I signed. But reading that, knowing the truth didn't matter in their version of the story, made my chest go tight. Was I ever family, or just scaffolding they used, and then tore down? The answer hovered, unspoken. I hovered too, over the keyboard, thinking of replying, but I didn't. I stayed quiet, letting silence be my way of saying, "I see you." That same silence echoed when I left that day. Nobody helped me carry the boxes. Nobody asked where I was going. Nobody pretended to care. I hauled the last suitcase down the steps alone. My back ached from it. Inside, I imagined laughter, music, glasses clinking. Champagne poured over my absence. Dad once told me, "Don't just watch how people treat you when they need you. Watch how they act when they think they're done with you." Those words kept looping in my head as I opened the door to my new place. Empty walls, quiet light, not much there yet, but mine. I placed the pothos by the window, same plant, new view. They may not remember me, but I won't forget me. The leaves caught the sunlight. New tendrils had started to form. They took the house, but I took back the roots. I was unpacking the last box when I noticed it, or rather, didn't notice it. The velvet pouch. I hadn't seen it since I left. I figured it was in one of the other boxes, tucked under linens or wedged in a coat pocket. But now, with everything out and in its place, I knew. It wasn't here. That bracelet, thin gold, delicate, with the tiny engraving that only I knew was there, had been passed down from my grandmother. She gave it to me on my 21st birthday, said, "You're the one who holds things together, Eileen. That's what this is for." When Dad died, I gave it to Mom for safekeeping. Told her, it should stay in the family. I meant that in the purest way. I just didn't think they'd hand it off like it never touched my wrist. I stared at the empty drawer in my dresser, felt the familiar pinch behind my eyes. Some people inherit heirlooms, others inherit silence. I'd gotten used to the latter. A week earlier, I'd seen a friend of Delora's at the coffee shop near Town Square. We made small talk, nothing too deep, until she said it. "Oh, and that heirloom bracelet Delora wore at the shower. Absolutely gorgeous. Vintage?" I didn't flinch, just smiled. Family peace, I said, and it was, until it wasn't mine anymore. She moved on to the next topic, but my mind stayed with that sentence. It wasn't about the bracelet, not really. It was about the way they rewrote the story, took my part out of the frame. They were building a new legacy, one where I never existed. That stung more than I thought it would. Not because I wanted the attention, but because it was mine, and I gave it freely. They just pretended it was theirs all along. Later that night, I opened my laptop and scrolled through old digital photos. College graduation. Me and Dad on the stage, smiling. I zoomed in. The bracelet glinted under the sun. He called me his foundation stone that day. Now. There was another photo. Delora and Mom at the baby shower. Same bracelet, same angle. Caption, 3 generations of strong women. I stared at it a long time. They didn't crop me out. They just skipped me entirely. I wasn't even a comma in their sentence anymore. I didn't rage, didn't break anything. I opened my notebook and started writing. Dates, moments, what I paid for, what I gave, what I built with my own hands, not to hold it against them, but to hold on to myself. If they wanted to claim the house, the party, the praise, fine. But I'd carry the truth, quietly, until the time was right. I glanced at the pothos plant again. It had started blooming, new leaves curling outward like they didn't know they weren't supposed to. They took the heirloom, but not the history. The envelope looked like junk mail, glossy print, oversized, with a return address from a mortgage servicing company I didn't recognize. I tossed it on the table with the rest of the day's mail, electric bill, coupon for tires I didn't need, some flyer about cleaning your ducts. It sat there until dinner. I was washing a single plate when I remembered it. Dried my hands, sat down, opened it. My name was right there at the top. Co-signer. The document inside was a change of ownership request. Standard boilerplate, except my signature was at the bottom. The same looping E. I stopped writing that way 5 years ago. I hadn't signed it. And the date? 2 weeks before I moved out. Back when my mother was still pouring me tea every morning and Delora was offering fake smiles like party favors. I didn't say a word, just sat there. They didn't just push me out. They forged my exit. The next day, I took the letter to see Paul, a small-town attorney who'd helped me after Dad passed. His office was still in the same place, sandwiched between a payday loan shop and a dry cleaner. He read the document in silence, eyebrows slowly arching. When he finished, he leaned back, tapped the paper with his pen. "This is legally questionable at best," he said. "Criminal at worst." I didn't flinch. Paul kept talking, outlining what a challenge might look like. Burden of proof, intent, paper trail, emotional cost, and maybe, just maybe, some kind of settlement down the line. He paused. "Eileen, you sure you want to go down this road?" I nodded, then shook my head. "I don't want to, but I also don't want to keep pretending this is just a misunderstanding." He gave me a look, not pity, not concern, just recognition. Like a mechanic looking at a rusted frame, already knowing what it'll take to make it roadworthy again. "Blood doesn't excuse betrayal," he said. If they were strangers, we'd be talking felony. I folded the document and slid it back into my bag. Didn't sign anything that day, but I didn't stay silent either. Later that night, I sat in bed, the letter next to me on the nightstand. The same table I'd used in the old house, the one Delora wanted to throw out. I thought about the day Mom cried, real tears, saying, "We'll never take this house from you. It's just on paper, sweetheart. Don't overthink it." I remembered the guilt, the speech about Delora's credit, how the bank wouldn't approve her a loan. "It's just temporary," they said. "We'll change it back when everything settles." They never did. It wasn't about trust. It was about access. They used my name the way some people use keys, just to get through a door. The heartbreak wasn't just legal, it was spiritual. They cashed in my kindness like a coupon. I opened my notebook, started sketching out a timeline. Not for court, not yet, just for me. A record of events. My version. The one they'd try to distort later if I didn't write it down now. The pothos plant sat on the windowsill. I got up, watered it. The leaves had thickened since I moved. Dad once said, "Watch the ones who keep records when you give without asking." I'd never kept receipts. Until now, I didn't cry. I planned. Started calling financial institutions, locked my credit, requested that no future loans be issued under my name without confirmed written consent. Small moves, but they felt like reclaiming slices of my voice that had gone missing over time. The next morning, I printed 2 cease and desist letters, standard legal language, nothing flashy, just facts, slipped one into an envelope, set it on the kitchen table. The other went into my glove box, tucked behind the manual. I didn't tell anyone, didn't post about it, didn't need validation. If they wanted to play legal, they'd learn I read the fine print too. The text came early in the morning, just before the sun had cracked over the trees. "Can we talk? Just the 2 of us? No drama." It was from my mother. No subject. No apology. Just that. A request that carried the same sugar-coated threat it always had. I met her that afternoon at a little cafe near the library. Neutral ground. 2 teas were already on the table when I arrived, hers half-finished, mine untouched. She greeted me like nothing was wrong, like we were just catching up. She asked about my new place, how I was settling in. Didn't wait for real answers. Then she started in. "You know Delora's pregnancy hasn't been easy," she said, fingers curled around her cup. "The doctors are worried. And all this tension, this ugliness, it's not good for the baby." I let her speak. "You always overthink, Eileen. You always carry everything." I didn't answer. She softened her voice, leaned in just slightly. "I'm not asking you to forgive. Just to stop. Let things be. For her. For the baby." I watched her carefully, not angry, just tired of the performance. She wanted peace, but only if she got to define what peace meant. I sipped the tea. It was cold, bitter. I didn't bother hiding the grimace. "I'm not the one who brought stress into this," I said finally. "I'm just the one who stopped swallowing it." Her expression shifted, jaw stiffening, eyes still pretending. "I'm not fighting," I added. "But I'm also not disappearing." She blinked, then tilted her head slightly, like I'd spoken another language. I pulled the folded document from my purse, slid it across the table. "The mortgage change with my forged signature? The one dated before I even moved out?" She didn't touch it, didn't deny it. I didn't need her to. "You had your chance to choose family," I said. "You chose control." I stood up, tucked my chair in, and left her there, tea growing colder by the second. That night, I trimmed the pothos plant. The leaves had grown fuller, thicker. It was thriving in ways I hadn't expected. I thought about my grandmother. She used to say, "They call it breaking the cycle," but really, it's just choosing not to pass on the wound. I wasn't trying to wound anyone. I was just done letting them write me out. I emailed Paul, my lawyer, and asked him to file a notification of claim, not a lawsuit, just a flag in the system, a warning shot. Then I started documenting everything: money, dates, repairs, gifts, receipts. Not to punish, to clarify. I wrote a letter next, handwritten, 4 pages, titled it, "To the Family That Forgot Me." I didn't hold back. I told them how I used my savings to save that house, How I made meals while they planned baby showers without me. How the silence around me had always been louder than any argument. I didn't accuse, I recorded. I ended the letter with one sentence: I don't hate you, but I won't allow you to pretend I never existed. I folded it, placed it in the drawer where my cease and desist letter waited. This wasn't catharsis. It was a record. The next morning, I typed up a short email, sent it to my mother and to Laura. No greeting, no signature. Moving forward, all communication about the property must be in writing and with legal counsel CC'd. That was it. No threats, no emotions, just a boundary. I didn't burn the bridge. I just put a toll on it. I didn't tell anyone when I listed the house. No warning, no preamble. I met with the real estate agent on a Wednesday morning, signed the documents over coffee, and handed her the keys. Legally, I owned 51% of the property. Financially, I'd carried it all. Morally, that ship had sailed. The sign went up the next morning. White wood, red letters, bold and clean. For sale. A neighbor texted Delora a photo before I did. That's how they found out. Within hours, my phone lit up with calls. I didn't answer. The voicemails came after. "You're embarrassing us in front of the neighborhood," Delora spat in one message. "You're acting like a child." I played that one twice, not out of hurt, just to confirm what I already knew. They didn't hear me when I cried. Maybe they'll hear me when it costs. 2 days later, they threw a party. I wasn't surprised. Pregnant or not, Delora would never pass up a chance to host something glossy. I watched from my phone as photos started to appear. Guests in coordinated outfits, a cake shaped like the house, the living room walls I had repainted full of laughter and filtered smiles. A sign hung behind the food table, "Built with love by our family." And beneath it, the antique mirror I had restored myself, now proudly labeled, "A gift from Aunt Willa." They didn't just erase me, they reassigned me. I didn't comment, didn't message, just saved the photos and moved on. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I picked up out of habit. "Eileen?" The voice was familiar. "This is Ruth from across the street. I just wanted you to know. I saw the listing, and I saw the party. I know what that house really cost you." That moment grounded me. Someone saw. Someone else knew. And that changed everything. I wasn't chasing vindication anymore. I wasn't trying to win. I was correcting the story. That night, I pulled out a folder and started compiling. Dates, emails, transfers, screenshots, photos with timestamps. I wasn't building a case. Not yet. I was building a record. Dad used to say, "If you give without receipts, you'll die a ghost in someone else's version of events." I finally understood. The next day, I started drafting an estate memorandum, just a clean document outlining my financial and labor contributions to the house, repairs, payments, dates, photos, all listed neatly, signed, and notarized. Not for revenge, for history. One copy to my lawyer, one in a lockbox. No ceremony, no noise, just truth. Late that week, I returned to the house. I was still on the title. I had the right. No one was home. I walked the perimeter. The porch boards creaked beneath my feet, just like they always had. Inside, I moved slowly. The kitchen I remodeled still smelled like lemon polish. The banister I refinished caught the sunlight through the window. I didn't linger. I just left an envelope in the mailbox. And it held the final offer from my agent. More than fair. They wanted to pretend I didn't build it. I'd show them what it meant to lose it. If they won't tell the truth about where they live, I will show them what it means to lose home. The call came just after 9 a.m. I was sipping my coffee, still in pajamas, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost let it ring out. "Ms. Marrow?" the voice asked. This is Lila from First Carolina Bank. I'm calling to confirm your recent application for a line of credit extension on the property at... I stopped breathing. I didn't apply for anything, I said. A pause. Then, oh, well, we have your name here, co-signer. Looks like it's tied to a secondary mortgage line. I was off the couch before she finished. When was it extended? March 3rd. That was 2 weeks ago. I hadn't lived there in over a month. Lila offered to send me the documents. When the email came through, my name stared back at me. My signature, not my hand. They didn't just steal my house. They were mortgaging my silence. I called the bank again, scheduled a meeting, and drove there the next morning. I didn't even change my clothes. I wanted to walk in looking like the storm they'd tried to ignore. The branch manager greeted me with practiced calm. I laid out my ID, proof of address, and the notarized separation agreement regarding the property. I'd like to know, I said, who requested the extension, when, and what documents were used to verify my consent. He looked nervous. Said they'd have legal review the situation and get back to me. I submitted a formal request to freeze the line immediately. No transactions, no withdrawals, no more games. They thought I was too quiet to notice, too tired to fight. They were wrong. That night, I checked Facebook. A local paper had posted photos from a recent charity gala. The event had been held at the house, my house. Guests posed beneath fairy lights on the porch. I stained myself. A banner read, "Celebrating the women who built this home from the ground up." I saw my dining table. The chandelier I picked out on clearance and hauled home in a borrowed truck. The mural I painted in the hallway, now washed in soft pink lighting and photo filters. I didn't feel anger exactly. I felt deleted. I gave them a house. They gave me absence. I shut the laptop, pushed back the chair, poured a drink I didn't sip. Then I wrote just a short letter, no names, no accusations, posted it anonymously on the local community forum. I told a story about invisible labor, about the hands that hold up the walls while others pose in front of them, about how erasure doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it's just a well-angled photo. The post went viral. Comments flooded in, supportive, curious, furious. I didn't reply to a single one. The truth could speak for itself. The next morning, a private message arrived. Simple, quiet. I always wondered why you were never mentioned. That was enough. Later that day, Paul called. The bank's begun an investigation, he said. They'll issue a fraud notice. You're not liable for anything. I didn't feel relief. I felt prepared. Do you want to press charges? He asked. I looked out the window, where the pothos plant reached quietly for the sun. Let's wait, I said. Let them sweat. Justice is patient. And so am I, now. The invitation came in the mail. No return address, no handwritten note. Just a thick white envelope with embossed lettering and a name that wasn't mine. Spring Celebration, hosted by Delora Marrow. I stared at it longer than I should have. Maybe it was sent by mistake, maybe not. Still, I showed up, not to make a scene, not to start a war, but to be seen. I wore something soft, neutral, hair back, no makeup, just me. The house looked different. Polished, curated, the porch light was finally fixed, shrubs trimmed, window glass clean and spotless. It looked like no one had ever cried there. When I walked in, the air shifted. Not heavy, just watchful, like someone had told a lie and was praying it wouldn't get repeated. People greeted me, hesitantly, smile nods, shoulder pats that said, "We don't know what side we're on." And then Mom took the mic. Standing near the fireplace, the one I rebuilt after the leak years ago, she smiled like she'd rehearsed. I just want to thank everyone for coming today. Watching my daughter build this life, Carry our legacy forward. It's more than a mother could ask for. The room clapped politely. Then someone, probably a cousin, asked, "What about Eileen?" It was quiet, quick, but deadly. Her smile didn't falter, but her voice tightened. Of course, Eileen is part of the story, in her own way. I didn't move, didn't blink. After the speech, she found me near the kitchen. Everyone else had moved on. Her tone dropped. "You were always the one I couldn't control," she said, soft but sharp. "That's why you had to go." I nodded. "And now I know that's why I won't come back." I didn't wait for a response. Later, as desserts were served, little Sadie toddled over to me, a cookie in each hand. She looked up and asked, in front of half the room, "Why didn't you come to the other party? Mommy said you lived here first." Silence. Every grown-up froze. I knelt down, smiled, looked her in the eyes. Sometimes grown-ups forget who helped make things, but you remembered. She hugged me. Somebody coughed. One guest whispered, "She's the real one who paid for that chandelier." That did it. The room stayed polite, but the air cracked. I walked the hall alone. Pictures lined the walls. Mom and Delora's wedding. Family trips I wasn't on. Most of the old photos were gone, but one remained, me and Dad. Graduation day. I was wearing the bracelet. I took it off the wall, held it. Behind me, a quiet voice. "I'm glad you came. Some stories deserve witnesses." A neighbor, not a close one, but enough. Later that night, back home, I started a letter to Sadie, just a thank you. At the bottom I wrote, "Never forget who held the ladder while others climbed." The porch light flickered when I left that party. I actually laughed, still broken, still theirs. Driving home, windows down, I didn't cry, didn't need to. I thought about Dad, about the mirror, about the pothos blooming wild on my windowsill. The story cracked tonight. And for once, I wasn't the one bleeding. The signature was final. The ink had barely dried when I handed the last document to Paul. "It's done," he said. I nodded, not because I was relieved, but because I was ready for it to be over. The house was sold. The money split the way it should have been from the beginning. No more, no less. I didn't fight for back pay or emotional damages. I didn't argue about who contributed what and when. Paul raised an eyebrow. "You sure you're letting them off easy?" I shook my head. "I'm not letting them off the hook. I'm letting myself off it." On the way home, I passed the old street. Slowed down just long enough to see the red sold sign still stuck in the front yard, flapping in the wind like it had something left to say. I didn't stop, didn't need to. Justice isn't always a courtroom win. Sometimes it's walking past the battlefield and not flinching. That evening, I checked my inbox. There was a message from someone named Hank Willis. Name didn't ring a bell until I read the first line. "Your father and I served in the same unit back in '82. He used to talk about you." Attached was a scanned blog post, never published, just something my dad wrote and kept, apparently, saved like a letter he didn't know how to send. My youngest child, the quiet one, has always been the builder. Everyone else takes credit. She never asks for it. I read it 3 times. By the 3rd pass, my hands were shaking. He saw me, maybe not loudly, maybe not in time to stop what followed, but he saw me. I printed it, framed it, placed it beside the pothos, which was now draping itself across half the windowsill. I wasn't invisible. I was just quieter than their noise. Later that week, a photo from the gala resurfaced online. The caption had been changed. Someone credited Delora as the owner, designer, and soul of the home. I didn't comment, didn't need to, but someone tagged me. Then another. And then the comments came. Didn't Eileen pay for the roof? Pretty sure that was her kitchen reno. Wait, wasn't the deed under her name? A slow wave of truth. Not rage, not scandal, just correction. I bookmarked the thread and closed the tab. Breathed. One morning, the phrase came back to me. Dad again, in the back of my mind. You don't have to prove you built the house if the roof still holds after you leave. I looked at the pothos. It didn't just survive. It flourished. I opened a fresh page in my journal and wrote, "Some things will never be returned, but nothing they take changes what I gave." I didn't feel the need to send it. The truth, once rooted, grows all on its own. Weeks passed. I started volunteering with a local housing nonprofit, helping women get back on their feet after betrayal, eviction, or loss. My first client sat across from me with tired eyes and a borrowed coat. She looked like someone who hadn't heard a kind word in too long. I only said one thing. "You're not broken. You're just in between homes right now." Later that night, I stood by the window, tea in hand. No tears, just the sound of the leaves brushing glass and the knowledge that I had made it through. I may not be in their story anymore, but I've written a better one of my own.